Now, I know we talked a little bit about email marketing in the beginning of the course, but now we're going to go through everything step by step. All right, so you should be back in your Shopify account, and I want you to click here on apps, and you should have the app already installed like I told you how to do previously. All right, so here we are. I only have one subscriber, and that's just a test because I wanted to subscribe to my email. I recommend that you go and subscribe to your email as well. Now, I want to confirm here, if you go to settings, click on email settings, and just make sure you're sending emails this one, the one that we purchased previously. And make sure your store name is your brand name. For me, that's Sara Business. So your goal is to try to get as many email subscribers as possible, or should I say engaged email subscribers. So essentially how this is going to work is, you are going to be sending out emails weekly to the people who are subscribed to your email list. And that means that you can send out pretty much any piece of information you want to your subscribers. But of course, the information you send has to be valuable. You don't want to send spammy stuff, just because if you do, then eventually people will stop engaging with your emails. They're not going to open them anymore. Sometimes it could end up landing in spam. So you don't want that. You want to make sure you're always sending out valuable content. And of course, this content will promote your affiliate links. So first, I want to teach you how to actually send out these emails. And then later, we'll talk about how you can actually get more subscribers. All right, so we have a section here called newsletter. Then we have automations, which is what you'll be using. So let's click here on newsletters. Okay, so it even has a tutorial for you, which is cool, but we don't need to worry about this. So click new newsletter. All right, so you can actually pick from any of these themes if you want to spice up your newsletter. Okay, so personally for me, I love to look at, other emails that people send to me, and I always use those for examples on what I should do. So this one guy, Dan Co, he has a very successful email list, and he has some pretty good emails that he sends out every week, and so I always use his for like reference. So if you're in fashion, or if you're in travel, or if you're in like a different niche like cooking, your newsletter might look a little different than someone who's in like finance or business. But I recommend that you try to come up with, kind of the theme of your newsletter in the beginning. And I feel like the theme of your newsletter should kind of match your website. And what I mean by this is like the colors, the font, I guess the way you deliver your message and things like that. So here's my website, and I feel like the theme I want to use would be more simple. So maybe some blue in there and keep the background the same color as this background. And potentially add in some of this like blue and purple when needed. Here's another newsletter. Pretty simple, but she does have, some nice little add-ons here. She adds some images, but for the most part, I'd say it's still pretty simple and something that you could replicate yourself. All right, so back here on Smarter Mail. So let's take a look at the different templates here. So you can use one of these templates if you want, if you feel like, something here is your vibe, something here would look good, with your brand, and you think people would like to see this, then you definitely can use one of these templates, or you could potentially just look at different layouts and create your own. But I'm going to continue looking through these and see if I find anything I like. All right, so after looking through them, I think they all look really good, honestly. Like there's some great ones here, but I feel like these might be better for like a big corporation, like a big brand that's like advertising their clothing or something. So I think for us, we may want to just create our own layout. So click right here. Now, I think for now, I'm just going to go with the blank template just because we can customize it however we like. All right, so it's blank and now we are ready to customize it. All right, so one thing I want to mention is every newsletter has one thing in common. They're going to always put their logo or their brand name above, the newsletter. So, or just whatever name they call their newsletter. So in my case, right, my brand is Sara Business. I would make mine Sara Business. Let's say, yours is Travel with Julia. Yours would be Travel with Julia. So you want to add it up there just like that. Now, I would say you want to actually make it like a nice looking logo. Honestly, I recommend you just use the logo on your website for your newsletter. So what you want to do is just click this little button right here, and you should see the option here to add a header logo just like that. All right, so as you can see, it just says Sara Business, and it's even matching the color of my website. But we can also just upload an image. So click right here and then go ahead and upload the image. All right, there we go. Now, this is definitely a little bit too big, so I am going to try to shrink it. Okay, so I think this looks a lot better now. Now, as for the background color, you could add it, but personally, I don't want to. So I'm just going to make it white, so it looks like that. Perfect. Now there's two main ways I find work really well with sending out emails. So the first way is like you just talking directly to the audience, so you just being like, hey, like, and you kind of, it's almost as if you're just sending a text message in a way. But I feel like that is a little bit more tricky to navigate compared to if you're just like writing your email about a certain topic and let people know that. So for example, here this guy's talking about how to leverage the flywheel framework to build a 7-figure business. So he's letting people know already what the email is about, and then he explains it. This one here, a 6-step framework for persuasive writing. So it's also really nice to just let your reader know what you're going to dive into, just so you know they know if it's worth their time or not. Sometimes, you know, you can surprise them and just say, hey, but I think this is the best format to follow. It's also a lot simpler for you. Now this I'd say is maybe an example of something where it's more direct to you. So he still says you will get replaced without these 7 traits, but he doesn't really talk about it anywhere here. And now he just dives right in to, you know, what he wants to talk about. So I'd say you can play around with both formats, but simply put, this is the best as an affiliate marketer. And remember, you always want to send out content that you already know your audience would benefit from. So let's say you're in the travel niche, you could be like, oh, here are the 6 best apps to get the best deals when, you know, purchasing travel online. So you always want to give them like this good information you know that they will actually use. If you're talking about like something that's not even related to your niche, then people are probably going to get annoyed and be like, what was the point of that? So for this email, I think I'm just going to talk about how you can save money shopping online using Rakuten. That's obviously something my audience would love. And how am I going to come up with a good newsletter? We're going to use ChatGPT. So in ChatGPT, I put write an email newsletter about how to use Rakuten to get cash back when shopping online. Make it sound natural like a human wrote it. Make it simple and less formal. All right, so it gave me this right here. Now here's the thing, right? You can use this, you know, as like, I guess like a template, but I don't always recommend that you copy it word for word. I think that's, you know, not a great approach, especially with a newsletter. So I think you want to have your own style with your newsletter where like your personality can kind of show. For example, with my newsletter, I usually do write them myself. You know, I can use ChatGPT if I need to, but you know, sometimes I'm already so passionate about the product I'm promoting that I don't even need to use ChatGPT. I just write whatever comes to my mind. But it can be helpful to use this kind of to know how to structure your email. So what I usually recommend is you copy this, put it in a Google Doc, and make some changes to make sure that your personality shows in it, and also so you're consistent in all your emails, so people can kind of see a common theme in your emails. All right, so I basically put the email here in Google Docs, just reviewed it to make sure everything was good. And then what I did was I also created the subject line. So subject line is very important. Basically, the subject line is this right here, which is what you see when someone actually sends you an email. So it's what you see in your inbox. So as you can see here, here's the subject line, and this can either make or break your business, I guess. Like if your subject line sucks, no one's gonna click on it. But if you actually create a good subject line that gets people to be very curious, then they're likely to click on your email. So you always want to make a good subject line. So I put get cash back when shopping online with this tool. So I guess, you know, it adds a little bit of curiosity there. They're probably thinking, oh, what tool can I use to get cash back? And they click on it, and then they see here the actual like headline, which is easily get cash back when shopping online with Rakuten. All right, so what you can do is just go ahead and copy this, just like the body first. All right, so here we are on the email. So where it says add section, just click here on add text. All right, so you can just go ahead and paste. So it obviously looks like a lot. Now you want to make sure you're formatting it. So you want to add the space here, just like how you have it on your email, how there's like the spaces, make sure you add that. All right, so here it is. Everything looks good. Now I do want to change the color of this to black. So I'm going to click here. All right, so it's black now. Now we also want to add the subject line. So I'm going to click down here. Gonna click text. Okay, now we can move this up. See this arrow? We can click that and it goes on top of this section, which is perfect. Now add the heading. Now for the heading, you can definitely play around with the colors. So what's nice is it gives me the color that's on my store, which is like this blue. So I could use this if I wanted to, or I could just make it black, but it's really up to you. I think I actually like this. I'm gonna keep it. I'm just gonna make it bold like that. Now one thing you can do is click right here, click body, and for the vertical spacing I usually like to make it a lot smaller, just like that, and then just make sure this stays bold. You can also do the same thing for this text. So if you click body, and then you can change the vertical spacing a little bit, maybe make it a bit smaller. I think that looks perfect. Okay, so notice how the background has like a gray color, so you can keep that or change it, but I think I want to make it white. I personally think white is the nicest. So what you do, you click on the section like that, you click on body, and then for the background, just go ahead and make it white. I'm going to do the same thing for this one as well and just make it white. And then that little section up there too, we can make it white. So here's how it looks. And again, right, you can play around with the colors, it's up to you, but I think this looks clean. You want it to look clean. Now up here in newsletter settings, you want to make sure you put all subscribers, just like that, because you want to send this out to all your subscribers. Then for the subject line, you can just go ahead and copy this. So I have my subject line. Now I added an emoji because I find that when I add an emoji, people are more likely to click on my newsletter for some reason. You know, this may be a myth. It's up to you if you want to add an emoji. If it looks good with, you know, what you're promoting, you can, but you also don't have to. Most newsletters that I've come across don't add an emoji, so definitely is optional. As for the name, you can just name this Rakuten affiliate link so you know for reference. Now, one thing I usually do recommend is, since you are promoting an affiliate link, you want to add a button at the bottom here that says try Rakuten or try whatever product you're promoting. So I'm going to click here on button, and then I'm going to change the text here. So I just put try Rakuten. And then for the button color, I could definitely change this if I wanted to. I notice it does put a color that's present on my website, but I think I want to make it a little bit darker. So one thing you can do is come on your Shopify store and then just confirm the color that's being used on your website, just because it is nice to kind of use the same colors. So here we're going to colors, and then as you can see, that's the color. So I'm going to copy this color, and then I'm just going to go ahead and add that here. And then I'm just going to make this the same color as well. Now I find the text is not being seen properly here, so I think I'm going to change it to white. This white, perfect, like that. Now for the font, I am going to change it to Arial. You can pick anything you want, but I like this. I'm also going to make sure I change this to Arial as well, and then also change this to Arial as well. I think it just reformatted for some reason, so I'm going to make sure I add that back. Last thing I forgot to do was just change the background color here to white. So let me just quickly do that. Now there is one last thing you have to do, which I think is important, which is just adding the Rakuten affiliate link in some areas where it says Rakuten. So I'd say you don't have to add it everywhere, but maybe in 2 to 3 places. So when I first mention it here, I want to make sure I add the link. So click right here, then just add your link. So just like that. All right, perfect, it's right there. And I can add it again right here. Maybe in the last paragraph I'll add it as well. Perfect. Now I know some people will add a link anytime they mention like their product that they're promoting. You can do that. I just feel like it might be excessive because it's mentioned a few times in here, and I don't want to mention it too much. Another thing as well is keep your emails nice and short and simple. So this email, I'll be honest, it's a little bit long. Like I think that I could probably explain Rakuten just like within like 2 paragraphs, maybe 3 paragraphs. So try to just shorten everything if you can, especially if you don't need to be adding so much information about your product. And also for reference, if you scroll down, as you can see, there's a ton of different things here you can add to your page. So you can add images, you can add an image and a caption, you can add videos, buttons, which we added, coupon, like all these different things that you could add if you want to just customize your newsletter. But once you feel confident with your newsletter, you can click here on preview, and this here's exactly what your reader is going to see. So that looks pretty good in my opinion. And if you click on mobile, you'll see what they also see on mobile, which is pretty cool. All right, so if you're happy with it, what you could do is just schedule and send. And a cool thing as well is you can actually schedule emails. So you don't have to send it out immediately if you don't want to. You can literally schedule it for tomorrow or day after, really up to you, but I'm just going to send it immediately. Okay, now if we click here on newsletters, there is our first email that was sent out. That is pretty cool. Now there is one thing I do recommend when sending out emails. So I think it is a good idea to have kind of like a schedule. So pretty much what I like to do is send out my emails every Saturday at 9 a.m. So I think you want to do the same thing. So try to send out your emails once a week at a certain time. I think weekends are great, like Saturday and Sunday, usually in the morning, like anywhere from like 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. is a great time to send out your email. And can you send more than one email a week? Yes, you definitely can. Maybe pick a day during the week where you want to send out an email. Let's say it's like Wednesday at like 8 a.m. or something. But that one doesn't always have to be sent out. You know, maybe there's some weeks you send it, some weeks you don't. But I do want to say, make sure you never spam your subscribers. You always want to send them valuable information, because if you're sending too many emails, sometimes people do get annoyed. So I'd say once a week is fine. You can do twice a week if you feel like, you know, you have very, very valuable information to share.